Hello! Hi everybody! It has been so wonderful to see your responses to the staff video. I did promise you there'd be a bit of a surprise and it looks as if you've all absolutely loved it, which is amazing. But keep your eyes peeled because we have more planned. So just keep looking out for more videos. We've got a few interesting ones coming up, which might see a little bit of a challenge and a bit of fun. Keep your eyes open. So today I'm just going to do a super quick video. Now I don't know about you guys, but I've been running out of bread at home, but I've obviously got a few little bits and pieces in the house that means I could use those to make my own bread. Now this is a super easy recipe that we do all the time in Stepping Stones because it's very versatile, which means you can use it for lots and lots of different things. Very, very simple ingredients. All you actually need is a little bit of Greek yogurt and some flour. And you mix those two ingredients together and it makes a dough. Now we've used that to make bagels, to make bread rolls, we've used it to make dough balls, we've used it as a pizza dough base. So there are so many things you can use this for. So I'm going to make the basic dough and then I'm going to turn it, for me, I'm going to turn it into a cheese and onion dough ball as well, just to give you some opportunities to look at the change. So what I've got today, let me turn this down so that you can see it. Ooh, not the camera, sorry. So these are the ingredients we're using today. So I need a bowl and I need a cup measurement. Now I've got a cup measurement that you would buy in the shops, but because the ingredients you need are the same quantity of both things, you could literally just use a cup if you've got a mug at home. So obviously we need to make sure that we've asked a grown-up before we do all of this, and you're going to need a grown-up today to help you because there's some sharp knives involved when you need to do the cutting. So all I've got is some flour, plain flour, self-raising flour, it doesn't matter. Self-raising flour, they rise a little bit more, they go a little bit less doughy, but it works just as well with plain flour. I'm going to mix the both. I've got natural Greek yogurt, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some cheese and some onions into mine, and I've got a few little bits on the side, so salt, pepper and garlic salt, and I'm going to mix that in as well. So obviously I've washed my hands before I started, but I'm going to do my usual. We're all getting used to this by now. I'm going to give them a bit of a clean over with some antibac just to make sure that they're as clean as they can be. And then the first thing we're going to need, while I remember, oven goes on, ask your grown up, oven goes on to about 180 degrees, which is gas mark 4, but I think we're all probably getting used to that as well. If it goes on before you start cooking, it'll be heated up by the time you've made your bread. So what we're going to do, I'm going to do half a cup of plain flour. Now with cup measurements, you need to make sure that what you're putting in is level. So I'm going to do this of plain flour. Doesn't matter if it goes on the breadboard a little bit. But then I'm also adding self-raising flour, so I'm doing half and half. Now I'm going to pour this over the bowl. So what we're looking for, and all of you that have done this with me before know how important this is, because we haven't got scales, what's important is to make sure that this cup is full to being level. So not full to overflowing, but full to being level. So if I give this a little bit of a wipe now with my fingers, we'll see there's a couple of bits dropping in the bowl, but that's fine. The majority of that is full, and we're going to pour that into the bowl. And then the next thing we're going to add, very simply, is our Greek yogurt. So we know that our Greek yogurt can sometimes go a little bit liquid inside. That's completely normal. So we're just going to give that a bit of a mix in. And then I need a whole cup, which hopefully I've got enough of here, to go in. Now what we have found before when we've done this recipe is you can't add too much yogurt because sometimes it goes a little bit too sticky. Now if it does, it's not a problem. You just add a little bit more flour. But I think we're going to be just about right. Now I haven't got quite a full cup. That is not a problem. I think it'll probably be just about enough for the amount of flour that we've put in. So let's make sure I've got everything out of this pot of yogurt. So it's a full cup of yogurt, Greek yogurt. Now I have used low-fat Greek yogurt before, and it actually has worked just as well. And I know Lidl do an amazing pot, massive pot of Greek yogurt, which we normally use for our cooking and stepping stones. So I've put the yogurt in, and now all I'm going to do to begin with, I'm going to use a spoon because it can actually get quite sticky. So to begin with, I'm going to use a spoon to mix it round, and I'm going to make sure that all of the flour is added in to the yogurt that we've just put into the bowl. Now sometimes it looks a little bit like it's not going to work, but when you get your hands in there, it works brilliantly. Now you'll find this can be quite a sticky dough. Now it's not a problem because when you work it, it just comes up just right. But what I will say is that you can't knead this dough too much. So that's when you use your hands and push it down onto the work surface. If you do it too much, the dough becomes a little bit too tough. And then when you cook it, it's not quite as soft as you'd like it to be. So that's what it looks like before I've used my hands. Now I'm going to get my hands in. Now remembering what I said, this can be quite a sticky mixture. So we just need to go a little bit careful that we don't actually squeeze it too hard. So it's made a dough. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of flour and I'm going to put it on my board, because this bit, when you knead it, now you only knead it, the recipe says to knead it no more than 10 times, which is quite a random amount. But I think as long as everything's mixed into it, my board's ever so slippery, it's very frustrating. As long as everything's mixed into it and it doesn't go all sticky to your hands, you know that it's about ready. And I think this looks about ready to me. So I'm going to show you several different options that you can use with this dough. Now, I am not too fussy about what it looks like, to be perfectly honest. I like things to go with the flow. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to rip off a little bit of the dough. I'm going to make it into a sausage shape. It's going to go round and round like this. Now, sometimes you do need a little bit of extra flour. When you start to use the dough, you do need a little bit of extra flour. Okay, sausage shape, and then you meet the ends together and just give them a bit of a squeeze. Now this is going to make me some bagels. So you want to make sure that the hole stays in the middle, and that's a bagel. So you're going to put that on the tray. Now I'm going to use some spray oil on my tray for this one, because it's bread. Sometimes it can get a bit stuck. So I've put some foil on my tray, and I'm just going to spray it with some oil, and then I'm going to put my little bagel on top. Now another thing you can do if you just want some bread rolls is make it into a ball shape. You don't need to squash it down too much, but also at the same time you've got to remember the thicker it is, the longer it takes to cook, and we don't want it to take too long. Now what you can do in the top of this roll, if you have a grown-up with you, make sure you ask them to do this, is just to cut a little bit of a cross, and it allows the air to get into the middle of the bread roll. All right, so we've cut a little bit of a cross into the top, and there's our bread roll. That's going on my tray. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to make a dough ball. So we don't want too much of the dough, but what we do want to do with this one is we want to make sure that we've made it into a circle shape. Now to this one, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. If I put it in the middle, and a little bit of pepper, and a little bit of garlic. Now you might not like all of that, which is absolutely fine, but guess what, your grown-ups might. So mix that all in together. It's really important that we mix it throughout the dough and it doesn't just get stuck in the middle. If it was just stuck in the middle, we'd be taste a little bit strange. Now you can see the more I've moved this dough, the stickier it's got. So I'm going to put a little bit more flour down here so that it stops sticking to my fingers. So I've mixed in the pepper and I've mixed in the salt and I've mixed in the garlic. So it now goes through the dough rather than just in one big ball in the middle. And then what I'm going to do, I've rolled it into a ball again, is with the flour on the tray, I'm going to spread this out. Now what you could do if you wanted is you could add some cream cheese into here. You could add some tomato ketchup. If you wanted to make pizza dough balls, that's really easy as well. You add a little bit of tomato ketchup onto here. Then you add in your pepperoni. You can add in some onions, add in your cheese, and then roll it up in the same way as I'm going to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some cheese in. And I've cut up some onions. I'm going to add some onions in. I'm going to put another bit of cheese on top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it all up inside the dough. So the dough's nice and thin. And I'm going to make sure that when I wrap the dough around it, all of it is inside the dough and that there's no little bits of cheese or of onion sticking out. I'm going to shape it into a ball. So in the middle is my cheese and my onion. Shape it into a ball shape, just like that. There you go. And we're going to pop that on the tray. Now I'm going to finish this off before I put it in the oven, but you don't need to sit here and watch all of that because that would be very, very boring. And then we don't want boring videos. I'm then going to spray the tops of all of the things I've put on my baking tray. It just needs a couple of sprays just to make sure it's nice and oiled when it goes in the oven. And then you'll pop it in the oven and it needs to go in for about 15 minutes. So in 15 minutes time, I will come back to you. See you in a minute.